My freshman year of college, I had a notorious reputation. No, it's not what you think. I was lucky enough to play college baseball at a fairly high level, and my freshman year, it didn't take long for my teammates to figure out some of my tendencies. And it took my coaches even less time to see my strengths and my weaknesses. You see, I was a talented young pitcher. I threw hard, my pitches had movement, I worked hard and did extra drills, but I quickly got a reputation for being wild. I had difficulty throwing strikes, I often hit batters. If you've seen the movie Major League with Charlie Sheen, I was a lot like that. I was Wild Thing. What didn't help the situation was that I had a head coach who tried to motivate his players by reminding them all of the ways they didn't live up to his expectations. Every time I took the mound, in practice or a scrimmage, I could hear our head coach shouting insults and reminding me that I'd always be a wild pitcher and that I'd never be good enough for his team. And it wasn't long before I started to believe that message. We've been in a series called Soundtracks as a church, and we've been looking at some of the negative, repetitive thoughts that can take root in our minds and negatively impact our lives. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that during my first few years of college baseball, I had a negative soundtrack. The mocking comments of my coach, the jeers and trash talk from my teammates, and the reality of my imperfection as a pitcher all combined to create a negative soundtrack that went something like, I'll never change. I'll never be good enough. It wasn't until a year or two later when our team got a new pitching coach named Joe Hallmacher that my soundtrack began to change. Coach Joe had a coaching philosophy centered around doubling down on strengths and rarely worrying about weaknesses. For Coach Joe, each player had one or two strengths that set them apart. We were all high-level college athletes, and Coach Joe was smart enough to know that he just needed to encourage our strengths and we would thrive. Now, I can't begin to describe to you the impact Coach Joe's encouragement had on my life. Not just my baseball career, but my life as a whole. Even when I wasn't pitching, I was equipped with a new soundtrack that reminded me to focus on my strengths and remember that I'm equipped and supported by the people around me. The encouragement of just one person replaced my broken soundtrack. It took me from the cycle of endless, I'm not good enough, I'll never change, to I've got this and I'm prepared for this moment. Now, I told you this story for two reasons. Ultimately, we all need a Coach Joe in our lives, and we all need to be a Coach Joe in somebody else's life. We need to be the voice of encouragement and love in the lives of others, but we also need to receive the voice of encouragement and love in our own life. And so I want to challenge you. Who can you encourage today? Who's someone in your life that you can remind of their strengths? Who's someone who's down on their luck, who's stuck playing a negative soundtrack over and over? And how can you be the voice of encouragement and love the way that Coach Joe was for me?